Hi everyone, I'm Evangeline here at eTrailer. Today we have the RockyMounts Gigawatt electric bike rack, and we're going to take a look at how it fits here on our 2021 Kia Sedona. I've been really enjoying the Gigawatt. I think it's a solid bike rack in terms of weight capacity, 80 pounds per bike, and it includes a ramp, which is not something every bike rack does include. So all of those are great things for it. And I've tried a bunch of different bike racks on our Sedona. So there are some fitment things though that we do have to keep an eye out for. The first is gonna be the length of your handlebars and the location of your windshield. So you can see here how our handlebars are a little close. In fact, if there's some movement, that handlebar might make contact with the glass. So what I recommend doing is, if your handlebars are at 29 inches, like what we have here, or longer, then I do recommend maybe putting that bike on the outside. If you really don't have much of an option, maybe putting something like a pool noodle or a rag on that handlebar to prevent too much movement against the glass might be ideal. The next thing fitting on our Sedona is, again, as it is closer to the vehicle, it also means that our tilt isn't that deep, or I guess far enough away. It does have a deep tilt compared to some bike racks, but it's still not enough. So it's another handlebar issue. When we open up our hatch door, you can see that we come this close to the handlebars. Now for some potentially road bikes, it might be okay. This is still a good amount of space to reach in, maybe grab some of our larger items without any issue while you're holding up the door with your other hand. So that's something to keep in mind. If that is a major issue for you, or if you need full access into your hatch area, then the next thing you can do with this bike rack is just go ahead and take the bikes off. So that method is pretty easy, pretty straightforward, especially when you have a ramp included with this rack. This is a frameless mount bike rack, which means that this secures your bike by the front and the rear wheels. There's 0 touch points on the frame, so whether you have, let's say, a carbon fiber frame or a step-through frame, no worries there. This is also compatible with fenders, and that is because of the extra strap here. So we're not going to remove our bike just yet, but I'm just going to show you that if you did have a fender, you would just bring this hook to the edge of, or right before the fender, and then you'd use this extra strap to wrap around the rims. In all other situations though, secure your bike as close to the fork as possible. What we're going to do is we're going to go over here. We're going to remove our strap. Now, in most situations, you would just adjust the strap to the wheelbase of your bike. If you have longer wheelbases, you just bring the strap further down. And then this secures, but I like to just tuck it behind the car so it's not in the way of our spokes. Then we go over to the front, and we are actually going to set up our ramp. So getting our ramp, we're going to sit this right behind that rear tray, and that way we can continue on over here by undoing this strap over by the hoop, holding the bike with one hand, pressing this button, lifting hook up, pushing hook out, and now we can ramp our bike down. So you can see that if my bike did weigh up to 80 pounds, this would be a lot more convenient than having to lift the bike up and over the bike rack. Now, looking over at the tray, you can't really adjust the bikes back and forth because you do have to set that front wheel into that hoop. It is a pretty wide hoop though. So the maximum tire width you can carry with this rack is going to be up to 4.5 inch wide tires. So if you have a thin road bike, it'll still work. As you can see, there's these thin slots there in that tray, but this does work really, really well with those heavier mountain bike styles. This ramp, by the way, while it is included with the bike rack, does not store on the bike rack, So always remember to put this back into your vehicle when you're not using it, and make sure it's in your car before you drive away for your trip. Now let's talk about measurements and dimensions of this rack, because this will take up some space behind your Sedona. If you measure from the rear bumper, the end of the rack is about 33, 34 inches away. So that's something to keep in mind if you have a small garage or you need to park into a tight spot. The next measurement is going to be ground clearance. So we measure from, well, I measure over from the tray where the bike sits, and that will be about 19 inches up off the ground. But you can also measure at the end of the bike rack, 18 inches here, and then compare that to the 9 inches up off the ground that our shank sits. So there is a shank rise to give you better ground clearance for those steep inclines like driveways or hills. So ground clearance for bikes means that's how high you have to lift your bikes. The ramp helps out with that. Ground clearance for the rack helps figuring out if you can make those steep clearances. But then there's another measurement, and that's going to be your compact position. So if you pull this lever, fold the bike rack up, and this is going to be your portable position. So measuring from the bumper to the end of the rack, that now sits at 13 inches. While it looks like it comes close over here, plenty of clearance, nothing I'm worried about. We have about 1.5 inches of space. Plus, when you have this secured and you give your bike rack a shake, it's not budging any more than that. Now your hooks may move, so just make sure to secure your hooks with the rubber straps whenever possible. That also makes everything look nice and neat. This is also how your bike rack will look like for the vehicles behind you. I always recommend folding up the bike rack when not in use, because not everyone's going to see it in the down position. Here, while our windows and taillights are visible, our license plate is kind of covered, but our backup camera sits right there in the opening of our bike rack. So what's going to happen is you are going to lose some visibility through your rear view camera, but you are still going to be able to see a bit of if there's any people or cars walking past you. When your bikes are on, that's going to be a different story, because it does depend on the shape and fit of your bike. So still pretty good news. You do get a good amount of use of your vehicle even with the bike rack on. Now this does fit into a 2-inch hitch receiver. I actually helped install this hitch on our Sedona. If you don't yet have a hitch, you can find one custom fit for your car here on our website. So with this, if you do need to carry around extra heavy electric bikes, I totally recommend the Gigawatt. It's designed to make it a lot easier to load and unload those bikes. Just remember, do not lose that ramp. While it did not tilt down far enough away to get full access into our hatch area, what I've noticed while testing different bike racks on this car is that none of them really fit that well with that door. You just have a really large door and the hitch is pretty recessed into the vehicle. So the solutions there would be to get a swing away version of the bike rack or a hitch extender, all not as ideal as having a pure bike rack straight into your hitch, giving you that full weight capacity for those extra heavy bikes. So this is going to be a great option for you. Hopefully this video helped you out with seeing out how it fits on your car, and more likely than not, this will fit for your bikes. This was a look at the RockyMounts Gigawatt 2 bike rack on the 2021 Kia Sedona.